Coming up on Network Africa, 4 people killed following a militant attack in Kenya. The UN envoy to Libya calls for countries to stop interfering in the affairs of Libya. Plus, Ugandan opposition member of parliament Bobby Wine released from police detention. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin in Kenya, where 4 people have been killed in a militant attack near a boarding school in northeastern region. In a statement by the police, a teacher and a small child were amongst those who died. According to authorities, Al-Shabaab fighters had been targeting a phone mast about 25 kilometers from Dadaab in Garissa County. The boarding school is on the road between Garissa town and Dadaab, and more than 100 children stay in the boarding house. Al-Shabaab, an Islamist group linked to Al-Qaeda that is based in Somalia, is known to attack communication masts so that people cannot contact the rest of the country. Kenyan opposition figure Miguna says he is stranded in Germany as he has been barred from leaving or ahead of his scheduled return to Kenya. Now, speaking to local media, Miguna said German authorities have been instructed not to allow him board a flight to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport or any other African country. He said he was not allowed to board because there was a red alert on his name. However, a government spokesperson, Cyrus Oguna, told the Daily Nation newspaper that he was not aware of any red alert and was not sure whether it was issued recently or in 2018 when Mr. Miguna was deported. Mr. Oguna also said that the issue will be resolved by the Foreign Affairs Ministry, saying Mr. Miguna is still free to travel to Kenya. Let's get more on this story now from a Kenyan journalist, Cyrus Ombati. Thank you so much for joining us. Help us understand what the issue is. Is Miguna really stranded in Germany?
Thank you so much. It's true, Miguna, who is a Kenyan by birth and has a Canadian citizenship, is stranded in Canada. And this is because of a standoff he has between him and the Kenyan government in regard to his citizenship. Miguna flew from Vancouver to Germany in readiness to come to Kenya. He arrived there last night. But then when he was ready to fly to Nairobi this morning, he was informed that he had a red alert, meaning that he can't fly to Kenya. So the airline told me that he has to liaise the Kenyan government so that he can be allowed to fly into the country. He called the local media, he called us, he told us he wanted to communicate with the government regarding his issue. We tried to reach the government, the Kenyan national spokesman, Mr. Oguna, he said he will be allowed, but then we inquired and established that now the government has come up with the new demands that he has to have a Kenyan passport. Remember, he lost his passport, which was perforated in last year, January, when he was deported from Kenya because of the standoff he had with the immigration officials at the airport when he was arrested for political reasons. So since then, he lost his passport, Kenyan passport. So the government is insisting that in as much as he came with a Canadian passport, he can't be allowed into the country without the Kenyan passport. So that's where the standoff is. So he has to fly back again to Canada to apply for a new passport. He gets the passport and he applies again now to come to Kenya. I mean, it's going to be a messy thing and tiring, but then that's the position now. He's traveling in German and he's not likely to come Kenya soon. Thank you.
Do tell us more about this red alert on his name that has not, allowed him to fly.
The red alert is still in place, and the alert was issued last evening as he was on the way from Canada to Germany. When he landed in Germany, the airline Lufthansa that was supposed to fly him to Nairobi informed him of the alert, meaning he cannot fly to Kenya until some demands are met. The demands include that he must have a passport. We have talked to a number of sources here which tell us that they are demanding that he goes back to Germany, or rather to Canada, where he can get a new passport, Kenyan passport, so that he can fly in to Kenya. Because they fear that once he's at the airport, JKI here in Nairobi, he will now hide his Canadian passport and then try to use an identification card, a national identification card, to come into Kenya, which is in accordance with a court order which was issued that directed the authorities to allow him to come into Kenya using an ID. But the government does not want that to happen, because they say it's against the international rules of traveling. One must have a passport.
Yeah, and the government is also saying they're not aware of the red alert on his name. Tell us, is he now back in the country?
In the morning, the government spokesman, Mr. Cyrus Oguna, issued a statement saying that they were making efforts to allow him to come into the country. But we understand that's not true. They are putting in new demands over making sure that he must have a passport, a Kenyan passport, for him to come to Kenya. And as I had earlier on explained, is that he had a Kenyan passport when he was here in Kenya in 2017, end of 2017. He came to Kenya 2017. He ran for a political seat to be a governor in Nairobi, but he lost. And then he joined a political group called NASA. That's the NASA, a coalition of political parties in Kenya. They were agitating for electoral reforms. He was behind the swearing in of the former prime minister as the people's president. That's when he evoked trouble on his side. He was arrested and deported back to Canada, in as much as he's a Kenyan. But you see, he's relying on an old constitution, which, or rather the new constitution, which allows Kenyans to be dual citizenship, to have a dual citizenship. But then the government says for you to have such kind of status, you must apply, even if you're a Kenyan. Even if you acquired your status through either birth or naturalization, or you applied for the same. So for Miguna to be allowed to have the dual citizenship status, he must apply. But when Miguna was asked to do that, he refused. That's the time when he was deported from Kenya, and his Kenyan passport was perforated, meaning it was destroyed. And now for him to have a new one, he has to apply to get a new one. So, and Miguna does not want to do that. So that's where there's a standoff between him and the government here.
All right, Cyrus, finally, before I let you go, I assume some Kenyans are closely watching this story. What has been the reaction, particularly from his opposition group?
The issue is eliciting so much emotions and reaction from Kenyans at large. Because you see, if you go to social media, you will see so many people reacting to the reports that Miguna is stranded in Germany, can't fly to Kenya because he has a red alert. Because you see, this man is a Kenyan, and we have so many Kenyans who are abroad or who are living abroad, and they will want to have a status like Miguna having a dual citizenship. But then it's an issue of now wait and see, because the Kenyan government is insisting that people must follow rules for them to be allowed to gain those status. So it's an issue of wait and see. Then we see what will come next. Thank you.
All right, Cyrus Ombati, Kenyan journalist, thank you so much for giving us more details on that story. Now, the crisis in Libya is still ongoing, even as Turkish troops have arrived. However, the United Nations is speaking against foreign interference in the country. Ghassan Salameh, the special representative of the UN Secretary General for Libya, is calling for countries to stop interfering in the affairs of Libya. Salameh made the call after he briefed the Security Council in closed consultations on Monday, asking the Council and countries to keep out of Libya.
There is enough weapons in Libya, they don't need extra weapons. There are enough mercenaries in Libya, so stop sending mercenaries, as is the case right now, with hundreds, probably thousands, coming into the country of late. So yes, stop all kinds of foreign interference.
Now, amid the escalations of tension in Tripoli, the UN-backed Libyan Prime Minister visits Algeria Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj made a short visit, heading a high-level delegation, including Foreign Minister Mohamed Tahir Siala and Interior Minister Fatih Bashaga. During his private meeting with Sarraj, Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune urged the international community to work on stopping the escalation in Libya. He reaffirms Algeria's commitment to working on distancing the region from foreign interference, which threatens the interests of the people in the region and the unity of their nations. Police in Uganda have released musician and opposition MP Bobby Wine hours after he was arrested as he headed to a public meeting in his constituency near the capital, Kampala. The Member of Parliament and his People Power Pressure Group had aimed to start a program of consultations with supporters on his plans to challenge President Yoweri Museveni, who has ruled Uganda since 1986. Police said Bobby Wine, whose real name is Robert Kyangulanyi, was trying to stage an assembly in an open area when he had only been allowed to meet supporters in an enclosed area such as a conference hall. He has been detained a number of times in the past. A Nigerian nurse in the UK has raised an alarm over the delay in the validation of certificates of nurses from Nigeria. The man, who asked to be anonymous, is demanding an immediate response from the Nursing and Midwifery Council in Nigeria to save Nigerian nurses in the UK from joblessness. Our correspondent Loretta Chiaga has the report.
Time after time, Nigerians migrate to other countries in search of greener pastures, and those in the medical profession are not an exception. The man in this video, who prefers to speak on condition of anonymity, is a certified nurse who left the shores of Nigeria to the UK. He has an axe to grind with the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria. According to him, NMC Nigeria has refused validating the licenses of practicing nurses who seek such while abroad to pave the way for them to work.
Nigerian Nursing Board was asking Nigerian trained nurses to pay 10,500 naira for them to send this validation via courier service down to NMC UK, which was done until last year, late last year, I think September, October. They increased this sum from 10,500 naira to 55,000 naira for validation of license to be sent from Nigeria down to UK, which was outrageous.
On the NMC website, there are criteria given for registration of a nurse, and this include registered qualification, where and when a nurse received training, whether there's a fitness to practice sanction, undertaking or warning against a nurse, among others.
According to NMC UK, when I spoke with them, there is no fee involved. So this process just involved that NMC UK have to just communicate the foreign board, either Nigeria, India, Philippines, or any of the board, asking them, is this person trained? I think they have to follow an online process, which NMC UK told me reliably that they communicated other nursing boards about this process that kickstarted October 7, 2019. But contrarily, Nigerian Nursing Board decided not to follow suit up till this moment I am speaking with you.
The Nursing and Midwifery Council is a regulatory body that provides a register of nurses and midwives allowed to practice in the UK, and also responsible for setting standards, training and conduct. Without a validation from NMC authorities, nurses from foreign countries can obviously not practice outside their shores.
I think this is just like a tactic to frustrate Nigerian nurses, because why? If they reply to this new online process, they will definitely not get their 55,000 naira, which is just a rip-off to Nigerian nurses.
Back in Nigeria, the Minister of Health says he's not aware of the issue.
The procedure for validating the licenses of nurses and midwives that are trained in Nigeria who want to practice in the UK, because the accusation is that the council here is extorting them and they don't want to give them the validation. So we have a bad Nigerian
I have not heard of that. I'm hearing that for the first time from you now. I've not heard of that from anywhere. We'll have to find out if there's something like that. I have not heard of it.
This Nigerian man fears he may lose everything if NMC Nigeria does not validate his certificate. He cries out for help. Loretta Chiogo, Channels Television News.
Still to come on the program. An award-winning Congolese singer, Celine Banzer, takes sudden fame in her stride. Please stay with us.